Hello, everybody. I'm so excited to have Tisha on here with me today. Tisha is a graduate of the Hormone Wellness Academy and has just a ton of hope to share with you today about what it really looks like to heal our hormones, why we might still be kind of stuck or struggling with the same symptoms, and why it's important to invest in yourself for that. So, thank you for joining us today, Tisha.
Of course, happy to be here.
Absolutely. Well, why don't you start off with sharing a little bit about who you are and we'll kind of dive in from there.
Sounds good. So my name's Tisha. Um, I live in the Pacific Northwest. I am a Christian, a mom of three kids, six and under, stay-at-home mom. We're doing some homeschool. So yeah, just the mom life.
Busy. You've
Yes,
got just a few things going on, right?
just
Just
a
a few
few,
things.
right. Yeah,
Yeah, nothing crazy, nothing exciting.
right,
But no, and that I think so many people can relate to that, whether you're a working mom or a stay-at-home mom or anywhere in between, like the plates are full.
right.
And so why don't you share a little bit about kind of what you were experiencing before we started working together?
Sure. So I would say about 2 years ago, in 2021 is when I had our third kid. Um, and of course, third kid, you think like, okay, I'm an expert at this point. Like postpartum's going to be a breeze, like I know what to expect. But it was not. So I had our third kid. I came down with reoccurring mastitis. And so I ended up being on antibiotics for on and off for about 2 or 3 months. And shortly after that, like things just like switched. Like I slowly developed severe hand eczema, but at the time I didn't realize that's what it was. Ended up having eczema all over most of my body. Um, Heightened anxiety, which I thought was probably just postpartum, which it could have been. Um, but I had a lot more anger and rage, so a lot of mood stuff that I just assumed comes along with three kids. Like, oh, every mom with three kids probably is ragey and angry and impatient. So there's that. I started getting tinnitus, so ringing in my right ear, and then like some pretty severe food and chemical sensitivities. That has taken me a long time to figure out what they are because it could be anything and everything. So that's kind of the big symptoms that I came for. Um, so yeah, it was just like, what are my
Absolutely.
symptoms, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
no, you nailed it. So definitely it's interesting because a lot of times we as women we tend to not reach out and ask for help until it's like the burden on us is so big that we can't function anymore, right? And
Right.
so it's like I can no longer navigate around these symptoms or it's becoming so difficult for me to do that that life is starting to feel really small, you know?
Yeah.
And that's not it's not the way we're meant to live and it's not it's not the way anybody really can live. So
Right.
so what was the kind of straw that broke the camel's back for you? What was the thing that kind of pushed that button of like I really need to figure this out and start addressing it?
Well, I tried starting to address it when it progressed, like when the eczema got so bad that it was just like blisters and sores and all over my hands and wrists. Like, um, at first I chalked it up to just postpartum. I did have postpartum anxiety and depression. I figured it was stress. I was washing my hands a lot because, three kids. But when it got to the point where I was just so uncomfortable and in so much pain, that's when I tried to address it, and I didn't even scratch the surface. I thought in the beginning, like, I'll get this figured out. It's probably some like new allergy to a chemical, and I'll just switch a product and it'll be fine. And it was absolutely not that. So that's what kind of started. And then it's like for 2 years, I tried professional help, with medical doctors. I tried figuring things out on my own. So
Right.
when I found you, I was essentially like desperate and willing to try anything. So, I mean,
Absolutely.
I was at the point where I talked to my husband about spending $5,000 on some like Instagram eczema expert. just because it was like nobody else is helping me and I can't figure this out on my own, you know?
Absolutely. No, and we all get to that tipping point where we're just like, I don't care what it costs. Like we're gonna
Right,
have to figure something out. Like we're just gonna figure
right,
it out. And so
right.
at that point, had anybody made the connection for you between your skin issues and your hormones? Or were in your mind were they like two totally separate things?
In my mind, they were two totally separate things, and nobody made the connection. I mean, nobody really even made the connection between my skin and my gut, which is really unfortunate because I saw a nature path. Like,
Talking to me still.
I know.
I
And I
can't
think
believe
it
it.
was because I presented with so many random symptoms that it was like we kind of got like we fell into that trap of like trying to address individual symptoms instead of seeing the whole picture. So when I came to you, you were referred to me by a pelvic floor therapist, a local pelvic floor therapist that says that she sends a lot of her postpartum moms your way.
Mhm.
And when she first mentioned you and I looked you up, I was like, okay, I see the hormone part, but like I've obviously got some gut issues. And so I didn't contact you until a month later when I saw her again. And she like really encouraged me to contact you because I just, I went when I looked at your stuff, it was like, okay, she knows about hormones, but like I can live with crampy periods. I can live with being cranky. I was like, I got some serious gut things, you know?
Yeah, like how
And
are you
so
gonna fix that, right?
right, right. I had no idea that they were connected. And then I also assumed if I address my gut, then maybe my hormone stuff would kind of just figure itself out. So that was the
Right.
assumption I was working under.
Absolutely. And that is the working assumption that most women would be, that's what most women would be thinking, right? We
Right.
are very conventionally trained to think that, like our symptoms aren't really connected, but they absolutely are. And so so I think I laid it out for you like something along the lines of like, okay, if you're having issues with your skin, there's issues with your gut. And if you're having issues with your gut, you're more than likely having mood swings and anxiety and sleep issues and bloating.
Hmm.
And you were like,
Hmm.
I have all of those. And
Right.
so then we're like, okay, so, but that's not the only thing that we address because, in order to address the gut healing, we also have to address the liver and some other things along with that. And, you brought up a really good point because when you said, you felt like working with your naturopath it was like addressing one symptom at a time instead of seeing the whole picture. That was
Hmm.
my experience as well. And that's why it took me so long to get
Right.
better was because we really were like, okay, this week this month I have mood swings and then the next month I have cramping and then the next month I have fatigue. And it was just this cyclical pattern until I kind of took things into my own hands and was like, okay, there's got to be like a simpler way to address this stuff.
Right.
So what was that like for you? I remember like for myself feeling just this immense sense of relief when I finally found somebody who kind of could put all of the pieces together for me. What was that like for you, especially because you'd been doing pretty much everything on your own or like spending a lot of money working with a practitioner and not getting the
Mhm.
results that you were hoping for?
Right.
So, what was that experience like for you to feel like somebody got you finally?
Well, I know what it was is the discovery call with you um was like the most understanding I got about what's going on with my body, and it was free.
Mhm.
And it was just like mind blowing. It's like she literally just like read my whole body and like made it all make sense, right? And so it's like I got off, and then you also gave me hope. And so it's like
Yeah.
I got off the phone and I remember just crying, and I could cry now because I mean they're happy tears,
Yeah.
but it was a sucky 2 years.
Yeah.
And so to have somebody like understand and explain to me what's going on, it made me not feel like my body was working against me. It gave a reason
Right.
for it, right? And then you also laid out a plan of action. I remember. So before I had a call with you, I actually scheduled again with that nature path and I was going to demand a stool test. Like at that
Mhm.
point, I did enough of my own research to be like, I need to look at my gut. And I don't have the time, the resources, the patience to keep just popping different supplements
Guessing.
that flared me up. every
Right.
supplement she gave me for my adrenals, for whatever, I don't even remember what some of it was. I don't think I knew what some of it was. It would
Yeah.
send me into a full body flare up of eczema. And so I couldn't do that anymore. Like I wanted answers as to and like a direction of what I was going to treat. And so I was going to demand a stool test, but then when I had a phone call with you, you explained everything to me and then you were like, if you can afford it, like let's just go for a stool test. Like you've tried enough, you've done enough. You need some answers, you need more of a direction. Let's do a stool test. And it was just like finally, right? Like
Yep.
finally we're going to get somewhere. And so I just had a lot of hope and relief. And I was thankful that it's like I finally found someone that can like help it make sense and then
Right.
help me through it and like and stick through it with me. Like when you see a nature path, it's like you see you're in face to face, they're friendly, they check on you, but then it's after that, it's like I could send a message, but I'm not getting like that emotional, mental, spiritual support
Right.
when I need it, right?
Right. And this is the thing that I think most women don't even realize they need until they have it. And all of a sudden it's like, wow, I've been carrying a lot of emotional baggage, even from my own physical healing journey, right?
Yeah.
Because to think that, we would go to the doctor, maybe we go to the OB and we're like, things are weird since I've had a baby, but like, they just kind of brush you off, or maybe they do some labs, but everything's normal, right?
Yeah.
And so then you're like, okay, I guess it's all in my head, that whole situation. And then to think that we wouldn't be emotionally impacted by continually having doors slammed in our face is wrong. Of course,
Yeah.
we're going to be impacted by that. But then our response is just, I guess I don't need anything, instead of like, no, I still need this thing. I just haven't found where to get it, right?
Right.
And
Right.
so that's a huge part of the reason why, why Carly and I are nutritionists, why we're in Messenger every single day with all of our clients, because there is an emotional toll that it takes. There is suffering that happens when
Mm-hmm.
we don't get the answers to our problems, and that's a really hard place to be. It's a hard place to live. And I remember just a couple different points in your healing journey where we had to address some of the emotional stuff too, because it's like, yeah, when you have a chronic presenting condition where you're like, I can't totally figure out why my skin is flaring up, and then that gives me anxiety. And then, am I having anxiety because I'm PMSing, or am I having anxiety because my skin's flaring up and I'm worried about, like, am I ever going to get better? And so we
Yeah.
had to work through some of those things, and I just want to say that's very common, because most of us don't realize we're carrying these like little fears or these little hangups around our health until we're having to work through them. And
Yeah.
then, because healing isn't linear, and we didn't see like, A plus B equals C, it was more like A plus B equals Y. Okay, how does that connect to this? Now let's move, like move the pieces of the puzzle around.
Yeah.
Um, it can be a very confusing journey. So I would love to hear, and I'm tempted to like pull the pictures up to show the before
You
and
can.
after.
I wanted to pull the pictures up, but
I'm gonna
I'm
see if
on
I
my
can do
phone
it.
in
I'm
my
gonna see if I
car.
can do it. I'll see if
Okay.
I can do it. But why don't you share what's changed for you? Like how
Yeah.
what have you noticed improved throughout that time working together?
Yeah. I want to say real quick before we switch, the other aspect of having you and Carly and like full access to you guys during the week was in the program was when I implemented things on my own, I often got flared. And so
Yeah.
there was fear to try anything new, even if it was good for anybody else's body, it could send my body into a huge flare because it's like stimulating my immune system.
Right.
So to have support where it's like, okay, I'm doing this thing that we talked about, and my body's presenting with this symptom, like, is this okay? Like, should I work through it? Like, should I back off? It was just really nice to have other people saying, like, that's common with what we're doing, or that's common with detoxing. It's going to get better, just to have that
Yes.
support. Because anything else that I tried on my own, I would have some little symptom flare or whatever, and I backed off.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to make progress with anything when that's how you would address things. You get a little
Right.
flare or something weird happens, and I'm like, nope, my body doesn't like it.
Yep.
So I just wanted to add to that. But so on the topic of what I've seen for improvement, when I did the program, which originally I started the program just because I wanted some love on my liver. Like I figured there's a lot of
Yeah,
good
that's right.
information in the program. So like I'll, address my liver, and if my hormones get better, like great. And I had that, do you remember I had that dermatitis for a long
Yes.
time all over my face? And it was just getting worse and worse. And it was like itchy and burny and painful.
Great.
And so I figured it was hormone, but like that was not my first thing I wanted to tackle. I was like, let's get this eczema under control. But anyways,
Right.
so I started the program, and within a couple of weeks of just addressing some liver stuff, I had a big patch of eczema around my eye that completely went away.
Wow.
And I heard actually later on, I listened to a podcast from somebody who says eczema around your eye is actually like a liver thing.
Yep.
So that makes sense. Shortly after that, the dermatitis on my face completely cleared up,
No.
which now looking back, I'm like, that bugged me so much more than I realized, like self-conscious
Yeah.
wise, but just physical pain. I have little notes. Sorry. I just don't want to miss anything.
Okay. No, you're good.
Um, oh, my period cramps went away, which was not a complaint because they were not that bad, but it's actually glorious not to have cramping during your period.
Right.
And I had
Right.
like, we talked about a couple months ago, I did have like a period where I had some cramping, which I think is probably just part of the process. But I was like, this stinks. Like,
Yep.
why did I think this was acceptable back in the day? Because like
Yep.
having cramps really stinks.
It does.
And then this last one, I didn't have cramping. So it was like, oh yeah, okay, this is great. So cramping went away, improvement in energy. And then just, I grew hopeful because I was seeing improvements in a lot of areas that like in time I would see healing in like all aspects of my body.
Right.
Do you want me to talk about what the benefits I saw after I started our gut protocol, or do you want to?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So
Yeah,
then
go
after
for
the
it.
program, and based off of my stool test, we came up with a gut protocol. And from that, I, well, it's on the next page. So it's very therapeutic writing all this stuff down, by the way.
Right. Get to
Um,
see it all in one place.
yeah, to see it all. It's like I might just keep this forever. When I started addressing my gut stuff, I had pain in my knee, like the joint of my knee that I had for 2 years. And it just went away. Like I didn't connect that was probably gut inflammation, but my
Mhm.
joint pain went away. The eczema that I had on my arms and legs completely cleared up. My anger and rage greatly decreased. Like I'm not perfect. I have my days or my moments, but like for the
Sure.
most part, the rage and anger is gone.
Amazing.
Um, my hands, the eczema on my hands, the severity of it has greatly decreased. It's not completely gone yet, but since it started, I've had to use steroid cream like pretty much every 7 to 10 days just to
Wow.
like manage it. And
Hmm.
I haven't used steroids for over a month now because it was
Wow.
just like after a flare up, and like it just kind of things switched. I'm in 3 months of my protocol, and it's just all of a sudden the severity of my flare up is not what it used to be.
That's
Um,
amazing.
yeah. And then another little fun thing that I didn't realize is I'm growing more hair.
Awesome. That is a
I
huge sign of gut healing, by the way. See all these little,
really,
I have a ton of
yeah,
little,
yeah. It's
yep,
hard to tell, but I have like just little
a
pieces
baby.
of, yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't even
Yep.
realize I was missing hair. So I'm like, either it's been gone for so long, or it was just like a gradual loss
Yeah.
that I didn't realize it. But it's, yeah, all the baby hairs. I'm like, hey, I'll take it if I can get more
Right.
hair in my
More
life.
volume in there.
Yeah.
No, it's absolutely, it's amazing. And when you do, like, I know for myself, especially when it's like a long healing journey, or let's say, we get, from the majority of our clients, we do see like 99 to 100% improvement in symptoms in 12 weeks, right? We have enough data on that to show that. It feels like an eternity though, kind of when you're walking through it
Yeah.
because you've felt so crappy for so long, right? And so this is one of the reasons why we also have all the women track their symptoms so that we can objectively see what's improving. And I know that that's something that like at different points when you would kind of backtrack a little bit or have like a recurrence of symptoms or a flare, we would take you back to, okay, let's look at and focus on what is healing,
Right.
not not as a way to dismiss the complaint, right? Because the complaint is valid, but as a way to kind of anchor yourself in that you are moving in the right direction because we need that like desperately,
Yeah.
especially if, it's a long-term kind of chronic pattern. So I love that you shared that. I love that you have your list. I know I think framing those things is awesome. Put it on the bathroom and, on the bathroom mirror or wherever, screenshot it on your phone. What would you say to maybe a woman who's kind of sitting where you were, where maybe not having eczema, but just sitting where you were kind of emotionally in that place, and how would you encourage them?
Well, one, I would want to give them hope. Um, in my situation for the last 2 years, I felt like my body was fighting against me. It's like I didn't know this body anymore.
Yeah.
There was just a lot of fear involved of like what's going on, and it's like I truly believe that our body wants to get back to homeostasis. And it's weird to say it now, but there is some blessing in the crummy symptoms. Like, had I not had severe eczema, I would have gone on my merry way, eating
Yep.
whatever I want, doing whatever I want with my body. And it could have gotten turned into a lot worse down the road.
Right.
Like, there is a blessing in my body giving me these obvious warning signs that I can't ignore. Right. Um, and so it's one to just give them hope that healing's possible. It does take time, which I'm still impatient, about. It's like I
Aren't
see
we
some
all?
improvement. Yeah, I see some improvement. I'm like, okay, well, when's this gonna happen? Like,
Yeah. What's next?
but
Yeah.
it's yeah, I mean, and in the grand scheme of things, I've had these symptoms for 2 years and I've only been on a gut protocol for 3 months. And it's like that's pretty quickly compared to like how long I've suffered or could be suffering, right? Um,
Absolutely.
it's just finding the right person to work with. And I mean, I've already recommended like 6 or 7 friends to you. It's pretty, it's pretty ridiculous. Well, I mean, everyone my age has had like
You're like a
3 or more.
walking billboard. I
Yeah,
appreciate
they're
it.
like had
Yeah.
like 3 or more kids. We all have hormone problems, right? And a
Right.
majority, a majority of us try and do it ourselves because we've had practitioners who can't help us, and so
Right.
we try and figure all this stuff out ourselves. And like for me personally, I spent way more money than I should have trying this supplement or that thing. Trying the next fad on Instagram that I saw. And I don't know. It's like I just feel like your program is really, really helpful. Working with you is really helpful. Um,
Thank
and you're very, very affordable compared to the $5,000 Instagram lady I was gonna
you.
spend money
Yes.
on. It's
Oh, well, I'm
insane.
so it is, and there's a place for things like that. I think I don't have no clue what their process or their protocols are, so I'm not gonna judge that. But I do, my heart is that women would be able to do the work they need to do, right?
Yeah.
And with respect to like my time and my admin's time, and there is a fair balance in that, I think,
Yeah.
that just has to be worked out. But I don't want to create an issue with accessibility. And
Right.
that's already an issue. It's already an issue. So it's like, why make that more difficult for people? But
Right.
I love your story. I love the hope that you carry now. It's like a night and day difference from that first phone call where it was, moving from desperation to like, okay, we're going to get through this. And just the information that you've gleaned and the trust you have in your body now and in God and in yourself
Hmm.
again of like, hey, even if I have a day or 3 days of bad symptoms, like, I can do this and
Right.
my body will heal. And like you said, it's that hope and that we need to actually move into the next phase of healing, right? Because to some degree, we're always going to need to be taking care of our bodies.
Right.
That's just a fact. And so, but we can't do it without hope, and we can't do it without, that trust relationship between ourselves and God and our bodies, in my personal
Mm,
opinion. So,
agree.
to me, that's the bigger win. Like, I'm so grateful that we got rid of all of those symptoms and that we knew what to do. And we have a process in place to help with that. But the bigger win for me is always like that somebody got, a measure, or a great measure of their life back. Because that's something that, as moms, we need that. Like,
Right.
our kids depend on us, our families depend on us, your, future, whether or not you have more kids, like all of those things really do depend on how well we're feeling. And so I'm really proud of you for putting yourself first and
Thank you.
for working through the hard stuff, because there were some not fun moments in there.
Right.
Um,
Right.
which is true for all of us. So
Right.
so having that support, to be able to say, "Hey, I'm struggling. I'm having a freak out moment. I'm not, I'm trying not to like go down the rabbit hole of all the places I've been,
Right.
um, that's our job to make sure that you get there." So I just wanted to say thank you for sharing your story. I know that women are going to relate to you so much, and just relate to, just the struggle, but also, that there is hope. There is hope on the other side of this. So do you have any last final parting words?
Just pull the trigger and do the program.
That's
I
a
mean,
good
if
one.
you're if you're watching this, then obviously there's something that you're dealing with, right? And
Yeah,
I think that there's big benefit in working with somebody one-on-one to walk through it with you. So
I agree.
that would be my parting words.
No, that's great. I mean, I have people I work with for myself. So
Right.
we all need that support. Well, thank you, Tisha, for your time today. Thank you for sharing your story. I know that this is going to, just super encourage those that are listening, those that are watching. So I hope that you have a great rest of your day. And
Thank
thanks again
you.
for sharing your time with me today.
Of course, thank you.